next fireside chat, I'm going to introduce our moderator, popularly known as Coach K. He's Africa's foremost experiential learning coach and the managing director of 361 Degrees Limited. He's a UK certified performance improvement and life coach and a business psychologist. He anchors the weekly radio program Activate on Jordan FM 105.5 and is a regular guest on Woman FM 91.7, where he discusses psychology, profiling, and performance. A quintessential coach, advisor, and consultant, he turns business and working class Africans into peak performance so that they can identify their potential and purpose and advance with it. Ladies and gentlemen, please make welcome Caller Day Stephen, aka Coach K.
Thank you very much forever. Even though I know that if you stand by me, I'll be your giant. But interestingly, the two gentlemen I'll be introducing will make me question my height. But we've learned to be complete in ourselves. So YF, when you come to the stage, just go to the end of the last chair. Bankole, I can manage you being in the middle. I think it's just rather apt. Permit me to introduce the gentlemen that will be sharing the stage with me for this fireside conversation. For those of us joining virtually and for those of us who are here, do not forget to retweet, to share, to post so we can like and get the conversations on. I'd like to bring to the stage one of my Egbo, and I'll tell you one interesting thing about both of them once they come on stage. Yemi Faseun is a business leader with over 30 years of multi-sector, multifunction experience. He currently works with clients in his role as Chief Talent Officer to drive the talent and business transformation agenda. Yemi was a two-term elected council member of Chartered Institute of Personal Management, CIPM. Now, let me finish reading this thing now. I wouldn't know I read good English. And has received numerous global recognition, such as Top 501 Most Fabulous Global HR Leader, Top 150 Global HR Influencer, Top 122 CHR in 2022, 2022 Top Voice in Leadership, and 2022 Top Global Thought Leader. He is also the founder of the TYFA Academy. Ladies and gentlemen, give a UR3 welcome to Yemi Faseun, popularly known as YF. All right. And of course, I would like to join on stage, someone I admire, of course, a lot. All those people that went to Unilag will not let us hear a word, even though they came from last one somewhere. But put your hands together as a welcome Bankole Williams, who is a master practitioner of neuro-linguistics programming, NLP, certified life coach and career coach, and a certified management consultant from the International Council of Managing Consultants Institute, ICMCI. He is a consultant, mind coach, therapist, and entrepreneur who has a proven record of helping organizations develop their human capacity for long-term profitability and sustainability. Bankole Williams is a founder of Live Your Dreams African Foundation. Over 23,000 youth has been empowered through its foundation. I know you have a program tomorrow. Please give a UR3 welcome to Bankole Williams. All right. So both of you are one of the reasons why I'm still in business. So just so you know, yeah, you guys, these guys actually drop nuggets every day. You keep dropping the nuggets. I need something to keep me in business. If you notice, all of us wear glasses. You know, is there by their glass, you shall know them. So if you don't, and that is your business. So I have a question here to start with, but I'm going to add lib to the start because when Doctor was given this nugget, it just sort of hit me. And so this is going to be my first off-the-cuff question for you, gentlemen. It's easy for us to talk about dealing, healing, and winning, and then we forget the part that concerns us as human beings. So this is what hit me while she was talking. I was whispering to you there. So it hit me that between the journey of life, between birth and death, that journey is people-full. It's a people-full journey. that interfaces with humans. And the irony is that even with your birth, there are people, death, there are people, but through that journey, how do you navigate that journey? Using people to help you deal with life, heal through life, and ultimately win in life.
All right, so let me try and go first. When I looked at the theme, dealing, healing, and winning, I think I looked at it from time perspective. And time being in the past, the present, and the future. So we are constantly dealing with stuff in the moment, right? So that we can either get frustrated or depressed about things that happened to us in the past, and ultimately how we deal in the moment and heal from the hurt, the regrets, the unpleasantness of the past will lead ultimately to how we're going to win in the future. So I looked at it from a time perspective. So what is the space of people in that? From my perspective, I think I've said that we should build three things over a period of time. We should build skills, whether as career people, entrepreneurs, individuals in whatever capacity, build capabilities, and also build networks. Because at certain moments in our lives, yes, we are enough, but we will need people around us. We can't be an island to ourselves. We are enough is to say to ourselves that we have enough resources around us to help us navigate through life so that we can deal, heal, and win. But if we don't build networks, if we don't know who to call at certain moments, it might not ultimately lead to us winning. So it's about who can you call at that moment of unpleasantness, at that moment when you think you are not enough. Who can you call to say, just talk to me? So we must have people around us, despite the fact that by ourselves, on our own, yes, we are enough. But we've got resources around us through people that should help us.
Awesome. Good one. Bankole.
Okay, I think that was so beautifully answered. I recognize that we are energy beings. And I think 2020 was a game changer to help us realize the currency of the current world we live in, right? I personally believe that the currency of the world is no longer money. Wealthy people caught COVID and there was nothing they could do about it. The current currency of the world that we live in is energy, right? The people who were able to defeated the virus because they had a lot more energy. Immunity is the energy of your cells to be able to battle the virus. And we are conveyors of energy. What does that mean? You come into a space, you are bringing your energy into the space, right? And your energy consistently is rubbing on people, right? Can I ask a question? Have you ever entered a place before? Nobody said a word, but you could just feel the negative energy in the room. Anybody ever been there? Right? We all convey energy, right? So in the course of our interactions, in life, we're consistently meeting and interacting with people and energy is being passed on, right? The question is, what kind of energy are you bringing into a space? Because it is impacting on somebody, right? And it is important to consistently be surrounded by, as much as you can, people who will lift you, who will elevate you, who bring the kind of energy that would make you feel great about yourself and make you feel like you can do, have anything you want, right? And it's important to recognize that, in the space of these positive people, you can feel elevated to achieve anything, to do anything. I always like giving the analogy of, I don't know if this happens to anybody, you get to meet someone who maybe is Caucasian, speaks with an accent, and as you're speaking, you notice that your accent changes. Has that happened to anybody before? Right? So it's not like you plan it, you just catch yourself. You're like, now maybe this, you're spraying and all. And that's how contagious, right? Energy is. Without any conscious decision on your part, you're being influenced by it. So, you know, like he said, I think it's important to find people who, you know, their energy, the energy that they bring into your life makes you feel elevated, makes you feel positive, and can boost you. And it's also important to recognize the people who their energy consistently makes you feel less than who you are, right? And it's important to recognize that if it is within your control, yes, please avoid people like that.
So in the light of that, I would like to say that if you understand the place of people in this mix and in this equation, then we can now jump on our topic for today, which is mind, body, and business, the heart of progressive reintegration. Why? Because it takes people consistently across board to get here. So this is the first question for you. I'm going to go with you, Bankole. What does this mean to you, especially as it concerns the new normal?
Okay, so when I saw mind body, I was like, these people they love me, right? I strongly believe that there's a strong connection between our minds and our bodies, and one of the reasons a lot of people struggle is because the body and the mind aren't yet in agreement, and until the body and the mind get in agreement, in alignment with whatever dreams, hopes, and aspirations we have, people will struggle. The thing about the body is that the body craves the past. The body craves the familiar. You know, I run trainings for corporate institutions, and some of my trainings are like 2-day trainings. So on day 2, a phenomenon happens. On day 2, I noticed people go to the exact same seat they sat in the previous day. So it wasn't like they planned it. They just found their bodies leading them in that direction. And that is proof that the body loves the past. The body craves the past. You know, one night I go home and I have a spot where I love to park, right? But my neighbor had parked his car there. So I parked in my neighbor's spots. So the following morning, right, my mind knew that I needed to go to my car, but I found myself struggling to open my neighbor's car. And I was wondering, why is this thing not opening? And then I looked and I'm like, oh, that's not my car. He had parked in my spot. My mind knew where I wanted to go to, but my body took me in the direction of the past. So the body craves the past, right? The challenge is our dreams, hopes, and aspirations don't reside in the past. They reside in the future, right? And if you are unconscious 95% of the time, it means that your body is leading you in a destination that doesn't even align with your dreams, right? So it's important to understand that there needs to be like a reorientation of this programming of our bodies so that it begins to align with our dreams, our hopes, and aspirations. And a lot of people do not even understand the formula to making that happen, right? But really and truly, for you to be able to thrive in these times, the two have to agree.
Interesting,
right?
Interesting. Wife.
Okay, so I was just listening. I'm not sure what I need to add to that, except to say that it is with our body or our bodies that we live in the moment. But with our mind, we travel to the future.
Beautiful.
Right? So we're a combination of both. The more we stay in the present and external realities take control of us, we remain in the moment. But if you train your mind to travel ahead of you, then your bodies will catch up with the mind. And you know, we were having conversations earlier today about the power of the mind. I mean, I don't know if this has happened to anybody before. You want to iron, there is no power. And you say, if NEPA would just behave right now. And what happens? I mean, I go into any crowded parking space. Ikeja City Mall, not too far from me. Friday night, you don't want to go there, or Saturday evening as well, because it's just jumper. You won't have any parking space. But I go there with the mind that there is one parking space waiting for me. Or as I'm driving around trying to get a space, somebody is putting out somewhere. And I promise you, 9 out of 10 times in my entire driving, trying to find a parking space, that has happened. So it is with the mind that we transport our bodies to the future. So if anybody isn't accomplishing a lot, if we're not winning, or it seems as if we're not winning, let's not focus so much on the body witnessing the moment of the present. Let's focus on the mind taking us to where we should be in the future. So what I have said in the past is that external realities should not invalidate our dreams. External realities will always, most times, deal with it can't happen, impossibilities. But with the mind, we travel to the future.
You guys are taking me to where I don't want to go to, because I'm trying to now not ask questions about the concept of nature versus nurture, which will steer us into another line of conversation. But let us behave ourselves and stick within the confines of this conversation. Otherwise, it's going to be shush over here. So now, especially as entrepreneurs and business leaders who focus more on creating valuable experiences for their employees and customers today, how can businesses realign models that supports this? And I'm going to jump in with wife.
Okay, so a lot has changed in our world since 2020. And I'll give you one or two examples from my personal experience. In 2019, about second quarter of 2019, I was in a business head of HR, and I said to the business exco that we should start toying with working from home. And I suggested, because of feedback from employees, I suggested that we should do 1 day a week, work from home. And then Exco looked at me and said, Yemi, are you drunk this morning? Is everything okay? You remember this was 2019, not a popular concept at that time. But the employees, we're already talking about the future of work. Technology was advancing very, very rapidly towards the future. And Exco eventually said to me, we'll approve 1 day a month. And then I took 1 day a month to the board, and the board said, no, you just want to give people vacation days and all that. We'll approve 1 day a quarter. And then employees just said 1 day a quarter. I mean, nobody was excited about it. That was in 2019. In 2020, the same organization, after COVID happened, worked 100% from home for 6 weeks. Of course, everybody globally. It was a global lockdown, remember? But because of the possibilities that now existed with thriving alongside the virus, our perspectives about work and life totally just changed. So we could work from home. So I didn't have to wake up at Omole and get on Formula and be 2 hours every morning. That same organization now said that 100% of its sales force frontline should work from home till the end of 2020. And 80% of the remaining 20% work from home throughout the year. And they made more money in 2020 than in 2017, 18, 19.
So interestingly, I can corroborate that, because if you work as consultants that we do, you find out that was like a generic thing that happened across industry. So Bankole, I'm sure you also want me to share.
Okay, I think from the perspective of the management of institutions, people who run decision makers in organizations, I think it's important to recognize that more than ever before, mental health should be a priority, and that there's a direct connection between employee well-being and the productivity within organizations. Right, the stress levels have significantly increased, right, since COVID happened. So I think there needs to be that consciousness of the likelihood, because if you go by default, there's so many 1,001 reasons to feel stressed, right? You go on Instagram, there's just news, a lot of toxic stuff that's out there, right? The question is, are organizations paying attention to how this impacts on the productivity, so to speak, of their people? So my advice would be that they begin to prioritize interventions and initiatives that would ensure that people are operating from a place of flow, right? You are at your absolute best when you get out of the way and you are flowing, right? The problem is you can't operate from flow when you are consistently stressed. People think that, I can give my best with the stress. The truth is you don't know what your best is. And that's because you have not done it from that state of absolute bliss, peace, and flow, right? So a lot of institutions, out in the Western world are already adopting things like this. They have meditation rooms and things like that, stuff to just ensure that people can recalibrate and start operating from their center.
Wow. I would like to, there's not something about they're saying push and prod more, but I know that my guys, she's looking at me because he gave me a list of questions. So I'm going to ask a question before I jump to your personal questions again. From this same question, So we talk about mental wellness for the employee within the business, corroborating the mind, body, and the business. When does it stop? When does it stop for the employee? Okay, why are you already laughing? Where in recent times, I don't know, this is a recent conversation, you mention anything at the workplace, and this is what you hear. You are affecting my mental health. I give you a report to do, double down on feedback. And they go, you are affecting my mental health. Where do you draw the line?
Okay, so I guess I'm probably one of the few individuals who will approach mental health from a different perspective. And I'm not saying it's not real. I am an advocate of wellness generally, not even just mental, financial, social wellness and all that. However, we need to also take into concern the fact that there is still medals for being resilient. There is still something called adversity quotient. I mean, he mentioned the fact that if you've not been through that level, you won't even be able to know that you can cope. But we are not approaching any threshold right now because of stress levels, and we're already talking about mental health. I think we need to preach more of resilience and balance it with mental health, rather than have a one-sided conversation around mental health. Mental health should not be an excuse for laziness at work. It shouldn't be an excuse for poor performance. It shouldn't be an excuse to be toxic at work. Let me tell you the way I know time is on our side, I have redefined integrity at work. If you profile 100 organizations today, locally or globally, there is one core value that is common to all. We can all guess. What's that? Integrity. I mean, it's so common. But do you know that integrity is not just about fraud? It's not just about stealing money. It's about Bankole and I working together, and he's committed to his deliverables to the point that if he doesn't do it, it affects mine.
Meaning that you're
and if I don't
regardless.
do mine, it affects the other person, and ultimately the organization suffers. The commitment that we bring to the flow of work, how we do it or we don't do it, is integrity. And that leads for me to resilience and also balance things with mental health.
Okay, so Banky, before I go to your question, so this is my jump off question from that, which is, so how then, I've spoken about, so where do you draw the line? So the next challenge is this: how do you balance the generational gap with Generation X, Y, and Generation XYZ that is coming ahead? And then the bulk of the baby boomers who I'm seeing in the crowd. I love you guys, advocating for you. How then do you create the ladder where there is a connect, and our generation doesn't see the next generation as a bunch of lazy bums who just wants to jump and scroll through IG and scroll through Twitter, and then they are telling you that I'm multitasking, and then they are in an high pressure workplace. And our generation is used to pushing resilience. Resilience is do the work, man. Work. So sorry, my voice is high. It's just the way it's paining me. But how do you strike the balance between both generations and you marry them such that it impacts on business productivity in the overall?
I think it's important to be able to, so this is the way I like to put it, right? For me to be able to get the best out of an interaction with somebody, I need to be able to understand the person and make the adjustments to be able to connect with the people. I think the one missing piece a lot of times is connection. It's not just about communication, but about connection, right? The truth is, whether we like it or not, there's the reality of the fact that there's a new generation that doesn't think the way some of us think, right? So the question is, are we doing anything to be able to connect with them? In my organization, I have quite a number of Gen Zs. And I'm privileged to say that the Gen Zs that work with me, they are a lot different from a lot of the things that I hear about Gen Zs outside. And I always ask myself, did I do something right? How come these guys are different? How come they're that committed and everything? And what I realized was that I was very big on connecting with them, because for you to be able to cause people to navigate in a direction, You have to first connect with them. I was extremely deliberate about that, right? And I think that institutions need to begin to prioritize that. Sometimes it's just, hit the ground running and start working. No, let's get to understand you, and let's get you to understand the culture within an organization. And there are different strategies for ensuring that culture is imbibed in people, right? We're all products of our environments. If you're in a place and something is prevalent, there's a tendency for you to adjust to what is prevalent in that place, right? But there's a strategy for infusing that culture in people. But the first thing is to be able to connect with them, to be able to, move them. The final thing I'll say in this regard is I hear a lot of people talk about, these Gen Zs, all that, right? Great. The question is, who parented them? Do you understand? Who throws stone? Who throws stone? Do you understand? Who raised them? Right. So we have to recognize, rather than always point fingers and all of that, right? We're all involved. How can all parties come to the table to ensure that we can connect and go in the direction of our goals?
So I'm told, thank you very much, gentlemen. I'm told about time, so I'll just pick a question each. And for those who are streaming, who are joining us from home, and those who are here, don't forget to like, share, tweet, retweet, make the conversation on. Keep it on and keep it ongoing. So for YF, I'm going to ask my first question and my only question for this. After a career break, professional reintegration could be difficult. Finding a job after raising your children and following a long illness can also prove tasking. What are the key factors that can contribute to positive, stable outcomes for those looking to reintegrate into the workforce in their chosen field of business or even a brand new career path?
All right. So one of the new conversations I'm having right now with people within my inner circle, especially individuals that I see that might be hung up on title, current position, current role. Everything about them is what they're doing right now. My conversations with them is to look beyond the now. Let's not wait until those circumstances happen to us before we start thinking of how to navigate through life. Some people life happens to all of us. We lose our job. We are told to go home on a Friday evening and you're asking what next. I think we need to plan ahead of time for all of that. And that will relate to the three things that I mentioned. Build skills, build capabilities, and please build a solid network. And building a network is not because of what you can get out of it. Start by giving value to networks. Start by being of service to your network. At the time when you now need to do to make a career change, to reach out to people, to go into business, believe me, it might be easier than magic. I've been in business for about a year, and I was sharing with the guys. At the time I left 7-Up bottling company, let me be vulnerable. It wasn't that I planned to leave. I spent only 7 months. I thought I was going to do another 2 years, but by the 3rd month, I knew I was leaving. I knew it wasn't the place for me. By the 7th month, I left abruptly. And I left on a Friday, took a sabbatical, 1 day sabbatical on a Monday, and became an entrepreneur on a Tuesday, November 2021. Between then and now, I have not knocked on a door to say I'm looking for a job.
Awesome.
And we haven't gone 2 weeks without a brief for a job.
Awesome.
And that is because of the service, the impact, the differences one had made over a period of time, and the network. The network being a function of your network it cannot be overstated. So let's not wait until we get to that point or those points that you mentioned. Let's start doing it now. The future advances gradually, one day at a time. It never happens suddenly.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. So, Banke, I'm going to ask to take one of these questions, and we'll go to rapid fire before I'm sent off the stage. So, progressive reintegration is often discussed from the individual's perspective, yeah? So, given your entrepreneurial and leadership acumen, what role does the management or institution play in business? And how can organizations develop a culture that facilitates progressive integration?
Culture is basically a way of work. There's a way that we do things. And from the perspective of an organization, the leadership, the management should be the custodian of the culture. So what does that mean? It means, first of all, the culture has to be defined, We have to be able to articulate what it is that we want. And for me, it's not all those fancy, because I do things for corporate institutions, not all those fancy things we put on the wall, you know, core values and everything. Yeah, it's one thing to have that. It's another thing for the values to be inscribed in the hearts of the people. So there must be interventions that we've created that would ensure that what we've placed on the wall is placed on the hearts of the people, right? What are some of these interventions? There are trainings. There must be the consistent communication of what we consider to be values. And the communication is not just verbal communication, it's all sorts. I remember back in the day, it's not like how it is now. Back in the day, I used to work in an organization called Guarantee Trust Bank. We had core values. They were screensavers. They were just everywhere, right? In the way the leadership communicated, the way they carried themselves. We were in training school for months, and we were indoctrinated into the keyword, right?
Indoctrination.
Oh, yeah. It was that consistent communication, but not just communicating, but living it out. I tell people don't just do what you say, they do what they see you do, right? You know, everybody, please lift your hand this way. Everybody, lift your hand. Everyone, touch your chin. Everyone. Is that your chin you're touching? That's your cheek. Is your cheek you're touching? I said, touch your chin. You don't do what I say, you do what you see me do, right? So, so if an organization wants its people to begin to live out certain values, then the leadership must be the custodian of the values within that organization.
So why, if I can ask my question? So it's no secret that the world of work has completely changed since the pandemic. And from the look of things, we may never go back to the way it used to be. So how can business leaders, managers, and individuals best navigate today's workplace and workforce?
Okay, quick correction. It's not that we may never, we will never go back to how it was. It's not possible. I mean, we keep talking about the new generation. If you give them all the perks that were like motivators for us then, official car, this allowance and all that. And you say, okay, do you want the job? The first question they will ask you is what?
Can I work from home?
Can I work from home? Is there a remote option? So what we need to all understand is that there is no more future of work. The future is now. We are already in the now of work. And somebody said that the rate of change that we've seen in the last 3 to 5 years has been so astounding, we are trying to catch our breath. However, this will be the slowest in terms of the rate of change, even going forward. So 2 things. Business leaders must adapt quickly, right? And they must also be agile. Things are changing. Consumer behaviors are changing. The generations are changing. Environment is changing. The business itself cannot afford to sit in the same place. So if we're still expecting the future to happen, we're already living in the past. We must change now, and very quickly too.
Awesome. Beautiful. Banky. So my last question before we jump over to a bit of fun. There's a prevalence of mental immobility following a disruption by adversity. What recommendation do you have for people who find themselves incapacitated by a past event?
I think one of the first things I usually would advise is a retreat. We're all products of our environments, right? People, places, things. People, places, and things are always trying to make you go back to who you were. Right. Sometimes it's so important to just take time to disconnect from what you've always known. Right. Disconnect from people, disconnect from places, disconnect from things. You know, it was said of one of the greatest people that walked on earth that it was customary of him to retreat. Right. So one of the things I advise is sometimes just unplug, right? Because we're so used to everything around and adjusting to everything around. Sometimes you need to go in, right, and spend time alone. I believe that the navigation system for your life is within you, and we should take time, out of our busy lives to be able to retreat, to be able to receive some level of insight and direction as to how to pull away from things that have held us bound.
Beautiful. Your compass of your life is within you. Fast fire, 10 seconds. I'm going to start with Banky. Your recommended books to help people deal in 2023 will be
Can't Hurt Me by David Groggins.
Awesome.
The Power of the Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy, and Happy Pockets Full of Money by David Cameron DeCandy.
Why?
Okay, mine will be Brian Tracy, maximum achievement.
Okay, wait, stop. Okay, let's do the rapid fire response in slow motion. 1, 2, slow. Write it down. First one again.
Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. The Power of the Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy. And Happy Pockets Full of Money by David Cameron DeCandy.
So wife, you know how we're going to do it now?
Yeah.
We're going to give it to them, but we're going to give it to them slow.
All right. So my first is Maximum Achievement by Brian Tracy. What I learned on my way to the top, Zig Ziglar. And my forever book around change management, Who Moved My Cheese.
Okay. All right. So I don't like to follow out, just to shock people. Okay, let me do this now. Apparently, 3 most productive habits our audience can steal from you. 3 most productive habits our audience can steal from you. And Banky, calm down. Wife, jump on this one.
Gratitude.
1, gratitude.
Kindness.
Second time, gratitude, kindness.
Self-development.
Hear that. So, all right. Gratitude, kindness, self-development. Banky?
Meditation.
See, now goes back to what he said, finding your inner compass. Meditation. All right. Bankole, your number 1 piece of advice to career professional today is?
You are not a victim of circumstances and situations. You are the creator of your reality.
Bam. Just like that. Creator.
Well, I mean, it's a lot of noise out there right now. Social media, profiling on LinkedIn and everywhere. People saying what they're not. So what I've said recently is mute the noise without and listen more to the voice within.
See, they're connecting it. All right. On the final notes, the best way to heal, deal, and win in 2023 is? Anybody can take notes on this.
Okay, be you, do you, everyone else is taking.
Beautiful. All right, Ricky.
Live from inside out and not from outside in.
All right, and my closing word as we take up this part of the conversation is this. Understand that life is about people. People is about life. If you can't handle people, you can't handle life. Live a winning life. God bless you and stay on top.
Thank you very much. And so we're going to have a quick photograph with the panelist, moderator, and convener. Please, once again, a round of applause for this wonderful segment. Is that all we can give? This was a very powerful section. It was powerful. I can bet that for all the books they mentioned, the first book that many people will read is Happy Pocket Full of Money. I know that's why they say it again. Happy Pocket Full of Money.